Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to the Cripescast. I'm your host, Charlie Behrens. This is the podcast where we talk to people for and or from the Midwest, and this week, my guest is from Evanston, Illinois. Does that make him a fib? We're going to find out in this Cripescast, actually. We talk extensively about that. My guest is Anders Holm, who many of you know from Workaholics. He's a co-creator and star of that, and also a million other things, including Champions, the Mindy Project. You've also seen him on the big screen with Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway in The Intern. But more important than that, he's a Wisconsin Badger, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. We went to the same college together. Got a lot of Badgers on this podcast. It's a lot of fun. So Anders and I actually met in, I think it was 2 years ago when the Badgers were in the Rose Bowl. We were at this sort of meeting of the Badgers. We all borrowed a big hall and hung out in there. Charlie, that's a hilarious joke. You should be a comedian full time. Anyway, we started talking on Instagram recently. I slid into Anders' DMs, and long story short, he's now a guest on the Cripescast. So super excited to have him. Anyway, so that's coming up in a second. What else is going on, Charlie? Well, thanks for asking, Charlie. I'm recording the audiobook this week for the Midwest Survival Guide. And let me tell you something about recording audiobooks. It's really hard when you're bad at reading, which I'm finding out I'm bad at reading. You never know how many words you can't pronounce or mispronounce until you read your own audiobook. Also, city names for anything not in the Midwest, I'm just a lost cause. I actually would have written an entirely different book if I knew I had to say everything out loud. But that's okay. I still think it's a better book knowing that I didn't have to read it out loud, because then anything over 3 syllables, I wouldn't have put any of it in the book. So it all works out. But long story short, I think I've spent way more time in the audio booth than any human ever should. I'm very thankful for the people helping me read this book. Anyway, long story short, I'm really glad I didn't know how bad I was at reading because I think the book is better for it. And probably at the end of this whole adventure, I will get good at pronouncing things that are longer than 2 syllables. What else is going on? I was at the gym recently. Does anyone else spend more time than they should looking at themselves in the mirror in the gym? That's probably a tired bit. I'm sure a ton of comedians have done that. But, you never know how self-obsessed a society is until you walk into a gym and everyone's just staring at themselves like lifting iron. I know it's there to figure out your form. I know that's probably the reason they have mirrors there is so you can make sure your form is right. Nobody's looking at their form. They're like, oh, I look friggin' jacked right now. I think that's what they're thinking. How do I know that? Because I was there. I was like, oh, I'm looking freaking jacked right now. And I'm like, you're an asshole. And then I was like, you're a jackass, Charlie. And I whispered to myself at the gym. But then I looked around and everybody else was doing it. I was like, we live in a weird, weird society. Okay, and that's enough about me looking at myself in the mirror. I do want to thank all of you who have rated the podcast and left a comment. I say this in every podcast, but I really do appreciate you. Specifically want to shout out SZ Lynn. Susie Lynn. That's probably what that, SZY Lynn. That's probably what that stands for. Susie Lynn says, thank you so much for your interview with Chris Voss. It was very interesting. I had never heard of the record company, so I listened to some of their songs, and I love them so much, I bought both their CDs. Holy smokes, I got to talk to Chris and get some residuals on that. I love the podcast. You have so many interesting guests. Tell your folks I says hi, and watch out for deer. Thanks, Susie Lynn. Really appreciate that, and I appreciate all of you for leaving comments and also sending in suggestions for people to interview. We've gotten a lot of those recently, and taking them to heart and exploring really each and every one of them we look into. So thank you for all your suggestions. Let's get to the interview with Anders Holm. Here you go. It's a nice microphone. I got to get that one. This is the wrong microphone to do the thing that I'm doing. But
that's like a mic for rapping?
Yeah.
Well,
and I'm not, I don't know if you know this, but I'm not as good of a rapper as you might expect.
I don't know. You got the mic. It's the first step.
I'm working on dropping it right now. Feel like that's where you got to start with it.
Bulletproof.
Yeah. So you're doubling down on LA out there, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I know people are leaving, but this is the place that gave me my dreams, man.
Yeah.
And I like it. I like it out here. It doesn't snow.
It does not snow. No.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it probably could. I just reading this article about the Colorado River
Yeah.
Putting that thing on, putting the warning on. What do they call it?
Like, don't swim here, you'll die?
No. Let me just read it so I actually get it.
Oh, yeah.
In a first, U.S. declares shortage on Colorado River, forcing water cuts. So, yeah. I feel like LA just needs to fix, like, it rains a lot there. Sometimes they just got to fix the water so it doesn't just go in the ocean.
It rains suddenly for 1 month every year. And you would think that they'd be like, okay, we know that it rains this month. Let's do something to prepare for that. And without fail, they never do. People drive like maniacs and crash. And it's half funny, half the worst.
Yeah, I remember that.
You lived down in Manhattan Beach or Hermosa, or where were you?
I was in Venice for a little bit.
Okay,
I was kind of all over, but I was in Venice. But yeah, it like the river just flows all that fresh water right into the ocean. They just gotta reverse it, and then there's more water. Seems pretty simple, doesn't it?
I mean, I know that we can turn salt water into regular water, but I guess it's like cost prohibitive or like a super crazy process. But as soon as we get Elon Musk, I don't know his name, on that, game changer. Ocean tides, there's like places where there's droughts, oceans are rising. I feel like something. What are we doing, guys?
Someone could have added 1 + 1 together and figure out, let's take some of this water and make it not salty.
Us. We're busy.
We are busy. Yeah, we're busy people. I mean, you are busy moving into a new office and harvesting what is one of the most miraculous mustaches I have seen in a while.
Thank you. It's it's a homage to all the fathers out there that I think you and I grew up with, that they all had mustaches, and then they just went the way of the dodo bird, and I'm hearing a lot of like pedo stash stuff, and fuck all that. You know? It's just a way to express yourself.
It's very passe for somebody to go that low of blow with it. I mean, it's a very wonderful looking mustache. I don't mean that ironically either.
Thanks, man. And I don't mean this ironically. I know a lot of people are like, oh, hilarious. And I'm like, what's the joke?
Yeah. You see me, I'm not laughing.
Then I get beat up and keep it moving.
Yeah. There you have it. I like that. So you and I, though, we met at that Badgers event in LA. Just to give everyone context, we went to a Day of the Badger. Was that what it was? Oh no, it was different. Yeah. It was during the Rose Bowl.
Rose Bowl. It was a Rose Bowl thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been some pretty sweet Badger events out here because we're always going to the Rose Bowl, and for the last 20 years we've been in the tournament a ton, and they play at Staples Center and at the Honda Center out here. So I try and make it out to those games. So I always get confused as far as like which event, but I think it was a Rose Bowl thing. Yeah,
it was. That was kind of cool. Do you like when the Badgers do come in and that network of sort of former Badgers? Do you use that often? Is that not really your jam to use it?
I remember, well, the short answer is I do think it's cool. Mm-hmm. But when I first moved to LA, I hated the idea of hitting somebody up and being like, hey, I went to the same school of 40,000 kids 10 years after you.
Yeah.
Any handout, any idea? Like, cause LA, there's not like a get your foot in the door ladder. It's like this crazy, like aggro crag from Guts, Global Guts. Nobody.
Oh, I know Guts. I know all about Guts. Yeah.
So it's like
Legends of the Hidden Temple too.
There it is. So like, you just got to make your way up in any way you can. So like, I didn't like the idea of me like hitting up people to be like, give me a leg up. We went to the same school. I don't mind helping people out. I had an assistant who went to Wisconsin 2 years ago, and he was a good dude, smart dude, capable guy, but also went to Wisconsin, and I was like, cool, let's go. But yeah, when I first moved out, I just didn't like it. And then now that I've established myself, I don't mind passing the buck, but I didn't like the handout concept of it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it is kind of goofy. How did you get your start? Because you went to Madison 4 years, and actually, let's back up a little bit. Before then, you're from Evansville, right?
I'm from Evanston. So Evanston.
Oh, I mean Evanston. Evansville's in Indiana.
Which
you're
is
from
like
Evanston.
super common mix up. But yeah, Evanston, where Northwestern is, and grew up there and ended up going to Wisconsin. 4 years in the summer, to be super accurate.
Yeah.
And I had started writing like shitty screenplays in college. Mm-hmm. And taking some film classes. I didn't have the best grades, so you're in Madison. Who's studying? But I had horrible grades, so I couldn't even get into like the legit, really cool classes of like screenwriting and all this. So like I just bought books and kind of taught myself, and then moved to LA with like a few bad screenplays under my arm and just like, hitting up Craigslist looking for jobs and like that kind of thing. Got an internship somewhere. And I had buddies that were like, well, you used to do like comedy stuff. Like in high school, I did this thing called Yamo, which is like a student written SNL kind of sketch show. Mm-hmm. And they were like, why don't you do some acting and like, you'll have like a 1-2 punch thing. And I was like, trying to be like more pretentious, and like I had my like bad Wes Anderson movie scripts, like very like art schooly type shit. And I was like, all right. And I took an acting class and it really wasn't my thing. And then I went and saw Second City back in Chicago over the holidays, my like first year living in LA. And I was like, oh wow, these people are like unbelievable. Like, why aren't they in LA? Mm-hmm. Like that's my closed-minded perception of like people with talent should just be here. Yeah. Because there's jobs and money, and like, if you're going to design cars, go to Detroit. Don't do it from Albuquerque, although I'm sure that shit's off the chain in ABQ. But so then I was like, all right, I'm going to try and I knew they had a, like not an annex, but like a wing out in LA, like a second city. Third city. Yeah. In LA, and I took those classes, and that's when I met Adam Devine, who was like driving up from Orange County, where he was going to community college with Blake Anderson and Kyle Newacek. And then we all just started kind of kicking it and doing live sketch stuff. And then YouTube came out, and we were like, oh, this is easier than like convincing our same 20 friends to come watch the same sketches over and over again. Right. At live theater.
Yeah. The bringer shows.
Right. I mean, dude, we'd be like, free beer? No. But we did live stuff and film stuff for YouTube for like 5 years, until Comedy Central had seen some office-based sketches that we did and were like, is this a show? And we were like, yeah, for sure. And that kind of like snowballed everything with Workaholics after that.
So they approached you.
Dude, this is how like sorry we are at like marketing ourselves. We just like to make each other laugh and like shoot shit and put it out there. There was an email from Walt Newman at Comedy Central, who was like an executive there, that sat in our YouTube inbox for like 6 weeks. And we are broke. We are all struggling. We're like making no money. And just like getting by. Like I'm at a job at Real Time with Bill Maher as an assistant, and on Fridays they get pizza, and everyone's like, oh, this pizza's gross. I'm like, yeah, it sucks. And I'm like boxing it up, taking it home for the weekend. It's like my food for the weekend. Yeah. And this fucking email from Comedy Central sitting there for 6 weeks, we finally like, oh yeah, click on that. We click on it, we see what it is, we set up a meeting, we go meet with them. And they're like, hey, like, let's try and do some like office type shit. And we at first were like, well, rapping wizards, does that interest you? That's a thing they do. Which we had made a few videos of that. And they're like, it seems kind of weird. Let's just keep it grounded. Yeah. So then we put together a pitch, and honestly, like every meeting, it was just me and the guys essentially improvising and essentially being who we were on the show Because in real life, we are kind of like, I'm like the pent up one, Blake's like the weird non sequitur guy, and Adam's like the intensity dude, and then Kyle's the guy who can put it all together on film. We shoot on film exclusively.
I've heard that, yeah.
And so we would just like essentially put on like an improv show, and like, you know, not like a literal show, but like they'd ask us where we're from, and we would just be like jabbing at each other. And then we did like 4 meetings, and every meeting there'd be like double the people that were there last time. And eventually they were like, hey, here's 50 grand, go shoot a couple scenes of what you think the show would be. And we were like, for $50,000, we're going to film an entire pilot. Because like we were doing sketches. They didn't know if we could do a show. So I mean, I'm not going to say I took credit for this, but we were like, they don't know that we can shoot a show. I had written a bunch of TV pilots that no one had ever seen except for like an agent that I had gotten. I was like, let's do a pilot so they know that we can make a TV show and not just like be funny for moments.
Right.
So we wrote what was the pilot. We shot a version of it, and then we had to like reshoot it once we found out we got picked up a couple months later.
And do you tell them that you're just going to do the pilot, or do you just take that upon yourself to do the pilot with the 50 G's?
I think we told them, but like we weren't hiding it, and we were also weren't like, we're only going to do a pilot.
Right.
I think we told them we were going to do a pilot, and they were like, okay, be smart about it. Like that shit gets expensive. But we just phoned in a ton of favors, did it for nothing. You know, and $50,000 to us, like we had been going to like fucking costume stores and spending like, hey man, that hat's $30. Are we sure we're doing this sketch?
Yeah.
Like, is this idea super funny? So to have that kind of money in like a legit crew, it was a whole new world.
And did you have to do all that? Because that element of producing, getting locations, all that's a whole other skill set. Did you all do that as
different.
well?
I mean, Kyle had worked in production, so he kind of knew how to put that stuff together. But we also had like a line producer they gave us, and like an AD to kind of help run things on set. But Kyle had been on enough sets, and Kyle's a general, like in a good sense of the word. Like he's the dude who's not yelling at you to go into battle. He's the guy who's like, fuck it, I'll go. And you're like, no, dude, we need you. We'll go. And then you're like, wait, I'm getting shot at. So yeah, he's just naturally good at kind of getting everybody on his side, having people see his vision. And like, you know, the cameras we shot on compared to what people use today were kind of dog shit, but like that shit was slick. It was polished. It had like a tone, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I think when a lot of people think about maybe like your rise and everything, it's like, oh, you got Workaholics, and it just, you know, it all happened there. But what you're saying is this was half a decade in the making of working together and getting your vibe right, so you could walk into those meetings and just be on. I mean, that doesn't happen overnight. And like,
it happens overnight for Ashton Kutcher. And that's it. I mean, but that's the misnomer of LA, is that there are these overnight successes that fall into people's laps, and you might think that that's going to be you. But I was listening to something the other day, and it's like they were talking about confidence going into like auditions or meetings or whatever, and they're like, you just got to be confident. And I don't disagree that confidence goes a very long way in this town, because it just makes people think like, oh, this guy's confident, he can be trusted with money, or he can be trusted with this movie on his shoulders, or trusted with this part that could go to anybody who's got talent. But at the same time, I think that confidence should or usually comes from the talent and the time and the hard work put in. So like we had written so many sketches, and you know, comedy is subjective, but we knew we were funny to us. You know what I mean? Like we would get together every, like, I think it was like Tuesday, Thursday. Tuesday we would pitch each other and pick one. Somebody would write it, and then we'd come back on Thursday and like clean it up and pitch on it and go, oh, this could make it better. And then we would film it that weekend. So like we had already like shat on each other enough that like somebody else shitting on us wasn't going to matter. I've already been told my ideas were bad. Everyone else has too, but then you have the one that's good, and you know it's good because it beat out everyone else's ideas, that kind of thing. So that confidence that we had and the way we could just kind of, to use my favorite word of the day, vibe in the room. Like they were like, and this is a huge thing out here, is like, if we can bottle that and make money off of that vibe, that energy, that thing, we will do it. And like, that always seems to be the bottom line, especially like when we're casting people on our show. Someone would come in and maybe even not be what we thought it should be, but they had this vibe or this energy. We go, oh, it has to be this guy for sure.
Yeah. And it's funny what you're saying about confidence, because I think in LA specifically, there's like false confidence and then earned confidence when your skill sets are what's creating the confidence, as you're saying.
Right.
But I think that's why LA gets that reputation of being kind of shallow, because people come in or they meet you at a party and it's just this all bluster, but then there's not a lot to deliver on.
It's the best and the worst, because like I said, sometimes it works. And these people, I mean, commercials are different now, but when I moved out here, like commercials went to nobodies. Now they go to like the biggest movie stars in the world, but they went to nobodies who had like a good fucking haircut and like some abs, right?
Yeah, right.
So if you showed up in LA with a good haircut and some abs and like a fun personality, people were like, dude, can you say Charmin double ply for me real quick or whatever? And they'd be like, yeah. And then they would just pocket like 100 G's and kick it the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's crazy. Were you ever good at commercials?
No. I'm but now I mean, like, I'm the voice of Mr. Peanut, right?
Yeah.
And like, I don't think twice about it. I just read the stuff and like try and put my voice on it. Whereas if I had gotten that opportunity to like audition for it when I was 25, I would have been like, salty peanuts. And go, hey, thanks. Hey, let's play this for all our friends. The weirdest guy came in and auditioned. But now I know my strengths years later and like what I should do, you know, like, like the people have spoken about that. But yeah, again, it's like the hours that you put in, then you go, and you know what you're not good at. Right.
Right.
I've had a few auditions come my way where like they're big and I'm like in the middle of it and I'm doing it and I got it the next day. And then I just go, I wouldn't cast me.
Yeah. That's the vibe right there.
And I go, nah, I'm going to keep writing the thing I'm working on. And they go, okay, this is a big deal. And I go, I know. So it's going to be huge for somebody else. But like, it feels like I'm forcing it and I don't have like that Joaquin Phoenix range where you're like, oh yeah, Joaquin as anything. Yes, I believe it, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's a hard place to get to. I'm thinking of when I was there, and I mean, maybe this was you earlier in your career too, but any opportunity that comes up, you're like, I have to take it because it might be the thing.
Oh, and like not even take it. You like cancel trips back home. Right. You have people being like, hey, they might bring you in for something. And you're like, I'm supposed to go to Chicago. I'll cancel it. Yeah, and they go, turns out no. And you're like, very cool. I guess I'll just see my folks in 6 more months or something.
Yeah, right. That funeral wasn't that important anyway.
Yeah, you know? Yeah. He has a twin. When he dies, then I'll make sure and go, oh, there's something else. There's a KFC gig. But yeah, I mean, how long were you out here?
I was out there. First I came out like 2010, 2011, was there for a year being a PA. And then I got a gig on the other side of the country doing hosting. So then I went away for a few years, did news, and then came back for like 2 years. And then my Man to Walk Man thing took off, and then I could do that from Wisconsin. So
tight.
And dude, I went to probably 100, like hundreds of commercial auditions. Yeah. You know, spend the entire day in the car going to Santa Monica to do some thing. Never got a call back. I was so bad at it. Yeah. And I just didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing because I wasn't doing the craft. I wasn't like trying to make stuff, which was, you know, my biggest mistake early on. Yeah. When you were doing the YouTube videos, were those popping off like you were getting tons of views, or So
No.
Comedy Central finds you and you have like what, hundreds of views on them, thousands of views on them?
I think we had a following. Shout out to Bashir. I think that was like the one guy who always commented on our videos, some guy named Bashir. And if he hears this, he'll lose his mind. But like, I think we were getting around 3,000 to 4,000 views,
right?
Which was like, more than a 30-seat theater, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like our homies over in Derek Comedy with Donald Glover, and like those guys were getting like front page. The whole thing was getting the front page of YouTube, like the comedy section. And if you got that, it was like a game. It was like Johnny Carson, right? Like nobody talks about this. Like Johnny Carson, if you did that, then you were famous the next day. If you were on the comedy splash page of YouTube on like Monday morning or Tuesday morning, whenever they did that, your shit got passed around to millions of people. And like you would pop off and then you'd get all those followers and then you would do like another video. We never got that shit. We had one video where we did this Bang Bus spoof where we're like, and our sketch was mail order comedy, which is a whole other thing. But we're like, we're mail order comedy. Our favorite porno site is bangbus.com. So we thought we'd give it a try. And I drove a minivan at this time. And so we drove around and we picked up this comedian girl we knew. And we're like, oh, here she is, dude. Scoop her up. Hey, you need a ride? She gets in the car and it's like cut to us so nervous and just like dead silent. Like, hey, is that a new Sizzler that we just drove by? She's like, I don't know. Do you have an accent? No. Oh, sorry. Never mind. And she was like, oh, I'll get out right over here. And then she gets out and we're like, okay, cool, take care. Watch that step, And then as soon as she's out of earshot, we're like, dude, we could have banged her. Yeah, we almost did. Like you were like, you got an accent. And we got a ton of hits on that because it was on YouTube. It said Bang Bus. And then the comments were just people being so brutal, like, dude, I would have banged her if that was me. You guys have no game. And we're like, this is a sketch. This is a comedy.
Right. It's almost like a self-parody of itself. You take all that toxic masculinity of the internet, which is what you're parodying, and then it's just proving itself in the comments.
Right. I mean, that's kind of been like a thing we've leaned into and embraced as far as like just being the thing that we kind of are, or at least we're seen as, and being like, well, fuck it. Let's try and make fun of it. But also like, you can't escape it because our fans, they like that kind of stuff. And we do too, to an extent, but then we go like, hey, this is when it gets bad. And then they're like, nah, that's when it gets good, dude.
Right.
But yeah, that one got like 400,000 hits or something. But that didn't give us any followers, like because of what it was. People thought it was like a porno gone wrong. Right.
They
didn't get it.
Yeah, it takes like a few of those things to pop off to build a following that aren't like, especially YouTube back in those days, it was title plus thumbnail equals views in a lot of ways.
Right.
Do you find that like, when you do that sort of nuanced comedy where you're like walking in the door that people, view you as, and then you try to like take the audience like out a window or something, or guide them to a different direction. Do you find that it's difficult to do that, or it kind of goes over people's heads what you're really trying to do, or do people get it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, sometimes it goes over heads. Sometimes it doesn't do anything. I think like we've gotten a few props on a few episodes. So like our boss, Alice on the show, her brother had Down syndrome. He was a recurring character that we brought back. And we were thinking like, oh, like what's like a unique younger brother we haven't seen, like, but you'd seen it all, and like Curb Your Enthusiasm is the king of having like little shitty kids on that like you can't stand. And we were just like, we've seen that. And then we were like, well, what if she has a brother who has like Down syndrome? And people were kind of like, whoa, we can't do that. And you're like, well, why? Of course you can. Do people not have siblings that have Down syndrome that like they bring to the office to meet who they work with and all that stuff. And it wouldn't it be funnier if like we weren't like putting kids gloves on to like be around him. We just treated him like a normal dude and went out with him and had like a wild night. And he became like a homie. So some people were like, we got some props for that. And then we have a ton of episodes that deal with like the guys think they fucked each other one night. And at first they're like, oh my God, wait, what? Fuck, that's gross. And then we kind of come around where we're like, well, I mean, shit, man, like you guys are my best friends. And like, if I'm going to lose my virginity to a guy, I'm glad it was you. And then we found out that didn't happen. Right. But we broach these topics. And when we do, like, we don't get no love. But then we also had, we tried to kind of go at like bro, fratty, movie quotey douchebaggery. And we created one of our series' favorite characters in this guy, Stan Halen, who was like a 40-year-old fraternity brother that like turned things to the next level and like did butt chugging of vodka in his ass. And the whole episode was like, oh, we want to be in a fraternity. We want to be bros. We were never welcomed. And then we get to it and we're like, this is crazy. This is too much. And people are like, nah, that's my guy. And you know what? Hey, great. The actor Will Greenberg who did it is super funny. So like maybe we should have gotten somebody who wasn't that funny. I don't know. Yeah.
We actually have to back up. You said you had a minivan.
Yeah.
Can we talk about your minivan?
Let's back up.
Because I had a minivan too. So we got to spend a moment here comparing minivans. What was yours?
I had a 1999 Dodge Caravan in what would only be described as exactly the color of Hulk, like that green.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Like you didn't see a lot of them, but sometimes you drive by and you give a wave. But it was like Hulk green. And it had one sliding door, like old school, not two, just one. No tape deck, just a radio that I had like a thing plugged into the cigarette lighter, and then I'd plug in my iPod to like DJ through the radio.
Yeah.
Okay. And then like to move out to LA and pack like my belongings, I just removed the middle seat and left it in my parents' garage. So the back of it was like limo style.
Yeah.
But it was great. Hey man.
That's awesome. Was it your folks' minivan or what?
It was my dad's minivan for a few years. And then he was like, well, if you're going to go to LA, like you can drive out there and I'm going to give you the minivan. And I was stoked. And then I saw his sick Dodge 2-door automatic door opener thing, or Grand Caravan. Like
he upgraded.
Yeah. And the weird thing is like, I'm the youngest. There were no other kids that were gonna be in the house, and he just got a Grand Caravan. But it drove real smooth. What'd you have?
Well, funny you should mention that. I had a 2005 Dodge Grand Caravan SXT, probably some similar to what your dad got. Yeah. The Stow and Go, and
wow, sure.
And I got it because I accidentally shot it with a shotgun, and my dad made me purchase it. So.
You were like somewhere hunting or like and a gun went over the whatever and shot at a dealership or somebody else's or whatever?
No, we all went hunting. My brother Andy forgot to unload his gun because he had lead paint in his nursery and looked at his child, and we were going back and he had one loaded gun in the back seat, pothole away from telling the story to St. Peter. Get back, my dad's like, pull the stuff out. I pull all the guns out, his goes off. And I'm like trying to be like, it was Andy, but you know, I'm literally holding a smoking gun. And my dad was like, you just bought a minivan. And so, you know, you could tell you were driving straight if the little BBs that were lodged into the front console were like in the center of the thing. You could tell your alignment, you know?
Yeah.
It was pretty great. But that's the reason that I was able to be like a PA or a set PA. Because, you know, I could move stuff and they wouldn't have to rent a truck. So that's really what got me.
You better not tell the Teamsters about that.
Oh, we were a non-union house. Yeah. We were behind the scenes production company. Yeah, you know how that goes.
Dude, you could have had some concrete slippers or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. Is it like for lunch when I was a writer's assistant, they'd be like, yo, we're going to jump in your van and go to McDonald's for milkshakes. And I'm like, let's do this. Because I was on the Fox lot, and the writers had to park in like the parking lot across the lot. But because I had to like deliver stuff like groceries and whatever, I got to park right outside the office. So they would like pile in, sit on like the floor. Those were the days, man. It's so weird when you get old and like, you know, not to be weird or whatever, like have some success and like be in the position you always wanted to be in, but then look back and be like, yeah, but I felt the raddest when I was driving around the writers of a TV show for like milkshakes. And let's just put this out there. Never paid for a milkshake. So always got the hookup.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. I was transporting like bands at one point. Like I had Frightened Rabbit in the back seat.
Yeah.
Do you know them at all? You know?
I've heard of them.
Yeah, I heard of them the first time when they were in the back of my minivan. But then, of course, I was telling everyone like, yeah, I drive around Frightened Rabbit. They're like, who? Right. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter.
What color was your van again?
I was silver, the silver bullet van after the shooting, actually. Yeah. So we
cool.
really did it.
Yeah.
Where's your van today?
Oh God, dude. Do you want to hear a sad story?
Yeah. Oh no. But yes, I do. Yeah.
So I had my eye on a Volvo, used S60. I think it was like a 2003 that I found off Craigslist, and I bought it because I was like, I can't be driving this minivan. I'm like 26 years old or 27. Like I can't be doing this. It just wasn't working as far as my confidence.
Right. Yeah.
Because I hadn't worked hard enough, but I needed the confidence. They were almost meeting. Anyway, so I found somebody who wanted to buy the minivan, who was kind of sketchy. She was like nice, but like kind of out to lunch. And she was actually a script supervisor, right? So the person on set who says like, hey, like you need to say this line like this instead of like that, or like you were holding that glass in your left hand, but you got to switch back to your right hand or whatever. And I was like, oh, cool. Like she works down the street at CBS Television City in West Hollywood, where I lived for a few years, and sold her the car, said my goodbyes. And then I would see it parked in my neighborhood because CBS TV City is right almost 4 or 5 blocks away from where I was living. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like maybe she lives around here. I don't know. And then I noticed like curtains got set up in it.
Ooh. Oh.
And I was like, oh, she told me she works at CBS TV City. She's living in the van. All right. Hey, fucking sick. Awesome. Like if that's what you got to do to like get back on your feet or whatever, like cool. And this is like a month later. Cut to another month later. I see it with a boot on it.
Oh no.
And I'm like, fuck. Like what is she doing? Like parking tickets or something. Like, you know, you got to move your car sometimes. LA parking signs are hysterically insane.
Yeah.
You can't decipher them at all. And then one morning, a couple months later, I just see her too early in the morning, like walking the streets.
Oh no.
Like not going anywhere, clearly lost the van and was living on the streets. And I was like, oh, this is fucking bad.
Yeah. Did you talk to her?
No, because she did, again, like she didn't seem like she was all there when I sold her the car. And like when I saw her, she was like talking to herself, and I was like, man, I don't know if she's, I guess I don't know. I was like younger. I don't know if I would do it now, but like, maybe I'm just a fucking psychopath and was like, fuck her. But like, it was like too shocking almost to say something, I guess.
Yeah.
Cause she was like older, and I felt like I was a kid and she was like this 40 something, maybe 50-year-old woman. And it was one of those moments in your life that you have where you're like, I'm older now, having seen that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah. I got
life
those
experience
moments.
wise. So
yeah. Well, hopefully.
What's your saddest story?
Yeah, geez, yeah. To put a button on her, hopefully she got another script supervisor job and was able to free her your minivan, now her minivan. Yeah. No, my minivan, I gave to my brother, I forget how that worked. Perhaps he bought it, and then he got rid of it. I'm not sure exactly what he did. I tried to encourage him not to because it's a classic automobile. But he had to get himself a Buick, so he had to trade up. Got $400 for it, I think. So you can't shake it on that. So he actually was going to try, because you could start it with a screwdriver at this point. So he was going to try to just leave it with the doors open in Milwaukee and see if someone would take it. He'd get some insurance money. But I probably shouldn't mention that on this podcast, since I think that's technically fraud. But
mention what?
Yeah, I didn't hear that either. And he didn't do it. He just thought about it a lot.
Yeah.
So
you're allowed to test the system. Right?
Yeah, and you're allowed to think about those things.
You can break a law just to see if people are watching.
Right. It's part of, exactly. It is part of testing the system. Yeah.
Like the cops catch you, you go, yeah, that's what I was seeing. Good.
Yeah.
You guys are doing your job. I'll see you around.
Perfect. My work here is done.
I'm
Wipe your
gonna
hands.
Go now.
Jeez Louise, folks, you're going to have to excuse this interruption, but I do want to thank our sponsors here. First and foremost, Jolly Good. Honest to Pete, title sponsor of this podcast for, geez Louise, over a year now, and it's just a fantastic soda. It all happened organically. I did a brandy old-fashioned video, and I used my favorite floater, the Sour Power, the Jolly Good Sour Power floater, and it's so good. And I meant it then, and then they says, did you really mean it? I says, oh, yeah, I meant it. And they're like, well, do you have a podcast? I was like, I do now. And then a beautiful relationship was born between Jolly Good and the Cripescast. Go support them. They're a local Wisconsin soda company based right there in Random Lake, Wisconsin. Also want to shout out Duluth Trading Company. Duluth Trading Company, fantastic clothes. I wear them all the time, especially their underwear. Very comfortable. I know it's weird I'm talking about my underwear being comfortable, but if you try it, you'll be talking about it too. Okie dokes. You can scoop up some of them undies at DuluthTrading.com. And finally, folks, if you want some shirts that scream Midwest, or say it quietly so they don't disturb anyone in church, head on over to Cripescast.com and scoop some up real quick. We got shirts that says Ope or Geez Louise, keep her moving. Tell your folks I says hi. Watch out for deer. Also cribbage boards and koozies and hats too. So scoop something up real quick once and keep her moving. Okie dokes, back to the Cripescast. So growing up in Evanston, Chicago suburbs and all that, what's your perception of people in Wisconsin? Growing up, before you went to Wisconsin.
So here's the thing you already know, but you don't want to hear, but you already know.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
We're not thinking about you.
Oh, you break my heart. I know that's the case, but
that's that Chicagoland douchebaggery.
Mm-hmm.
We've I didn't spend my dad went to Ripon College.
Yeah.
You know Ripon? And so
I know Ripon.
We would go up there and we would go to Green Lake maybe every other year to do some water skiing and stuff. But I didn't spend a ton of time in Wisconsin like some other people from the area. Mm-hmm. And with Chicago's such like a thing, a metropolis that
we've heard.
Yeah, I know. So this is, and I had to preface it by saying these are the things So that's the center of the universe for us. Just like New York thinks it's the center of the universe. Actually, and didn't think much. But so then I went to Wisconsin, and steep learning curve.
Yeah,
you gotta find out who's from where is where. You got people from way upstate. It's a different animal than being from Oconomowoc or one of the Milwaukee suburbs, like fucking Whitefish Bay or something.
Right.
If you're from Sturgeon Bay, totally different bay situation.
Right. Totally different. And if you're, and instead of upstate, it would be up north, and there's a lot of hand map action going on.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have that in Illinois.
No, we got nothing. The hand map situation, I was like, this doesn't help me.
How does this not help you? It's like, look, Sturgeon Bay right there.
Got it. But now I'm like, but at first I'm like, now I'm just looking at your hand.
Well, it's a nice in with someone. You can compliment their hand.
I agree. But yeah, it was. I felt like everybody was from Oconomowoc. How big is Oconomowoc? Is it
Oconomowoc,
huge?
it's big enough. It's a suburb of Milwaukee-ish.
Yeah.
Not really a suburb of Milwaukee. It's kind of way out in Lake Country. It's about 25, 30 minutes from Milwaukee, but close enough that that's how people perceive it.
But yeah, that was the whole thing. I mean, and like, we used to drive up to the Cheese Castle from Chicago.
To get cheese or beer or what?
Yeah, like that kind of stuff. And I remember taking my buddy when he turned 18 to like that like porno shop nearby there.
Adult toys. Yeah. That's a fun adventure for you.
That was pretty funny.
Adult toys and cheese. They actually have one of those too. So
I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Right. CBD now too. So
it's a trifecta.
Yeah.
But we didn't grow up hunting, so like there was no. As far as the outdoors went, it was just like boats, kayaks, canoes, that stuff, water sports.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get. Yeah. And a lot of friends with places in Lake Geneva.
Yeah, I mean, not so much. Like, I wish, I wish I had more friends with more lake houses.
Yeah. Well, there's still time,
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe one day I'll have a lake house and I'll invite you. And
dude, I'm there.
It's a dream.
I'm
cool.
all about it.
I just gotta get a lake house.
Throw me on the tube. And just shake me.
Do you do tubing?
I love tubing. Tubing to me is better than water skiing.
Really? See, I'm the opposite way. But why do you think tubing's better?
Because the point of water skiing is to like stay up and like do it. The point of tubing is for the person on the boat to thrash you.
Yeah, that's true.
And you just have to like hold on for dear life,
Yeah.
Whereas skiing, you're like, yeah, I did it. I skied. I didn't fall. I managed to do that. And by the way, I'm not like some fucking dope water skier. So I understand that if I tried to take it to the next level as far as like jumping wakes and what the fuck ever, it'd be more interesting, but I'm not. So to me, tubing is like, am I going to get thrown off this sucker or what?
Mm-hmm. Did you do two skis when you water skied or just one ski?
Never did slalom. Never got to slalom.
Never wakeboarding or anything like that?
Wakeboarding kind of came after. I mean, I'm like 40. I'm 40.
Yeah.
It came after my water sports era,
Gotcha. As soon as you could pull an ACL or something, that's when wakeboarding came and you're like, nah, forget about it.
Right. I want to be the guy out there who's got like the knee braces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with like the neoprene that the big wave surfers are rocking. I want to be that guy. Although I'm going to the Ozarks, like, I can't believe this. Adam Devine's having his bachelor party next week in the Ozarks, which is like COVID hotspot America.
Oh yeah, seriously.
I want to do some water skiing or some tubing there for sure.
So why did he choose the Ozarks for it?
So his parents retired there, and his dad has been going through chemo. So he's there, and his dad is a party animal. So we all kind of want to go there and rage with his dad.
Oh, that'll be fun. Is it going to be a tight knit thing, or is this like a rager?
I mean, we're gonna try and be safe because it is like the COVID episode.
Right. Yeah.
It's like where Delta was made in a lab there. But yeah, I think there's like 20 dudes. So like we don't necessarily need to go to bars. We could just queue it up and drink at the house, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So you really think there's going to be some tubing going on at this party?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure.
Have you and Adam gone tubing together before?
No, but Adam's a boat guy. His dad's a fisherman, and they got a boat that you can ski tube. Or I think Kyle wants to do some knee boarding.
Oh, knee boarding! Now
he's a knee boarder.
That is the person who invented the knee board. I'm convinced was like a knee surgeon because that is terrible for your knees. Because
you're just like bouncing on like your not hyper extending, but the opposite hyper.
Descending. I know what you mean. You're just kneeling on a board and there's no shocks and it's just boom,
so
boom,
you're just
boom.
flexing on your knee.
Yeah. It's just like ready to pop it at any instance.
And then as soon as you dip the nose of the board, you're done.
Yeah. You just
eat shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Kneeboarding was how I tried learning how to barefoot once. And, that went miraculously awful.
So you were kneeboarding and then you kind of like leaned back onto your bare feet.
Yeah, you get up on the knee board, then you kind of twist around, sit in the middle to try, and then you put your feet out, and then you tell them to like get it going up to like 60 miles an hour.
Because you have to, right?
You have to. It's got to be going that fast, 45, I think. And then, I just ate shit. So
you gotta be that guy who, you've seen the videos of like the dudes doing the barefoot and then they like go onto their back and they're like turtle shelling and spinning around.
Yeah.
And then they like, the homie will take them near the shore and they'll fan out, let go, and then like scooch all the way to the shore and then stand up and just take like a beer from their girlfriend real smoothly.
Yeah.
You got to be that guy.
I wanted to be that guy for a long time, but it's a lot harder than it looks. And if you get on that knee board in the Ozarks and you try and be that guy and you let me know how that goes for you.
Don't you start with the bar off the side though?
Okay. So if you're doing that, I honestly think you're cheating because that I could do, you know?
Right.
But what you're talking
steal
about,
a goalpost and do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but because there's, you jump out of the skis, you can do that thing, but that's what you're talking about, right? Where the guy's on skis, he jumps out and then he lands on his back, and I can't figure it out. That's all right.
Yeah, next summer.
I got some questions from our fans for you, so these will be, cool. We got some good ones in here. Max wants to know Culver's or In-N-Out, being a Midwest guy who's lived in LA,
it's Culver's for sure. I would say the burgers are a tie, but the fries go to Culver's. And if you're from LA or California, you think In-N-Out fries are good, but when you're from somewhere else and you come here, they're bad, and that's a big rift between people, transplants, and California natives. If you're from here, you don't know they're bad because you think they're good, and they might be healthy. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we're at a burger place.
They're not good.
Yeah, no one's going to In-N-Out or Culver's for health reasons.
Yeah, come on.
Right? I'm sure someone is, but they got the wrong deal. This is from Beloved DCN. What's your most prized work in film or television?
What's my most Workaholics for sure. I don't know if I can think of like, you know what I do? Here's what I don't want to talk about that.
That's good.
I guess it's got to be Workaholics, and like it's because I made it with my friends. Like there's nothing wrong with being put on a project, meeting new people, but fuck new people. No, but like there's something about creating something with your friends. We were all nobodies before that. It was truly like our brainchild. It was truly like our sense of humor on film, because we shoot only on film. Yeah. And it was so much fun. And like having Jillian and Mary Beth and Eric Griffin and all these other people come in and kind of like fill out our sensibilities and give us, give our comedy more of a context. And the fact that we did it for 7 seasons, and sometimes it was harder than others. Sometimes it was super easy, but it was always fun. So that's gotta be it. Yeah. And I'm only saying that because James Cameron just won't put me in fucking Avatar for some reason. But as soon as he does,
I think you look really good in blue.
Blake, Adam, and Kyle, Avatar, and Jimmy Cams till I die.
Were you sad to see Workaholics go?
No, it was like a team decision because they wanted more, and we were like, we can't afford to stay here. We're getting bigger, better opportunities at other places, and they've come back though. They're paying us to make a movie. So we're in the middle of writing that for Paramount Plus right now.
That'll be sweet. How's that process been? Has it been like the band's back together, or has it changed?
I mean, the band is back together. We're all doing this podcast called This Is Important.
It's a great podcast.
Thank you. And like, that's been really kind of just the writer's room of, not for the movie, but like, that's what the writer's room for Workaholics was like. We would just bullshit like that. And then on like the podcast, one of us will go, okay, so then if that happened to you, why don't we open an episode there? Then you have to go to this, and it's right before a job interview or whatever the fuck it is, it's really just like the writer's room part 2. So having been in contact with the guys like that has been awesome. And now we just will stick on Zoom for like another hour and go, and I'm writing it. So like essentially we throw ideas around together. I go off, kind of start putting them in order, come back to the guys after they've read it, and we just keep refining. And we're almost done with like an outline, because like as soon as you outline, that's the movie, and then writing dialogue is fun, but it's icing on the cake, and then we improvise a lot. So it doesn't,
I was going to ask that. So when you go in and do you write like a rough, like, okay, I know these lines are going to be funny enough to give us a solid movie, and then let's have fun? Is that basically your job?
We always want, starting at Comedy Central, we were like super intimidated being there, and we wanted to make sure we put our best script forward every time so that they weren't like, oh, these guys are fucking hacks. Like they are what we thought they were, just some dudes that got lucky, and we didn't want to be that. So we tried to make every script as funny as possible. But then like when you get on set, first of all, Adam loves to like just throw things out the window and like take things a certain way. And then you're kind of like trying to keep up. And then things will happen on set too, where like, something will go wrong, and then you use it. You know what I mean? And I don't think we got like too competitive trying to be like super funny, but like you do want to bring your A game. And if that means like going off page and trying to catch somebody off guard, that was always fun for us.
Yeah.
Because we knew each other's shticks, right? So like sometimes it would get boring because you're like, oh, he's going to say it like that. Oh, you did it like that? Cool. Oh, I'm going to say it like this. Fuck, you guys knew that was going to come. So sometimes you'd have to just be weird to be weird, not to use weird, but like we would just do it in a way that you definitely should not do it. And that might make the cut.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I know we're running tight on time, but I just want to, we ask this question kind of in every podcast, but especially with the way people are being discovered these days, I guess, what advice would you give to someone coming up in comedy, or what advice would you give to yourself if you were coming up in comedy today?
I'll start with advice for me. I wish I did stand-up comedy. I don't want to do stand-up comedy. I did it a couple times because I was an assistant on Real Time with Bill Maher, and a lot of those writers were stand-ups. So I was like, well, fuck, they're not going to respect me unless I go like do some open mics.
Right.
And so I did it a few times, and it was fine. I wouldn't say I bombed. I did fine. I did good. I got some laughs. You're playing to stand-ups, right? But then we got Workaholics, and I was like, okay, well, I'm done earning those idiots respect. I got my own show. No, they were all very cool. But so then I stopped doing it. But I do wish I did it because it's a community, so like you're there with a bunch of like-minded people who are like, I really want this. Because if you do stand-up, you have to really want it, because it can be humiliating, either just by like audiences not paying attention, not caring, not thinking you're funny, or if your material is like personal and you're talking about it, like it can be rough. But if you're doing it and you keep at it, you really want to do it, and you will meet other people who really want to do this. And I also think that it helps you shape not only what you like to do for comedy, but also what people laugh at you doing, right? Like, the way that I am, what I am, how I look, how I talk, people won't laugh at certain things that I think are funny coming out of my mouth. They might not be, but they might be the exact same joke said the exact same way by somebody else who doesn't look like me. It might hit better because it's the delivery, whoever's delivering it. It just comes better from that face, that woman, that person. So the audience helps you figure out why you're funny, how you're funny, and you figure out your point of view very quickly. And then you have, after doing that, you've got this wealth of comedy bits, right? That you can take on the road. You can do it between stuff. If you're bored or if you feel like you're not booking stuff, go do stand up. At least go kill that room. Somebody might be in there to be like, hey, I love this. Let's give you a sitcom or whatever. But again, the community is great. So I wish I did that.
Would you do it now?
Doing it now is complicated in that, like, now that I have success, and I got a ton of stand-up friends who I'm sure would be encouraging if I decided to do it. But it's definitely a young person's game. If you got kids, you're like, peace out, kids. I'll see you in the morning.
Yeah, it's tough, right?
And then also, like, you have a target on your back because you're somebody who's already famous. You probably have an audience waiting to laugh because they're like, oh, I know this dude. He's funny. Like, and then you come out and you go, it's hot out here. And people go, oh shit, it is hot. So there's a little target on your back. You really got to deliver. You can't be the guy who shows up half-assed. And I think that's, again, when you do the work, you build that confidence. People will know that confidence real. If you come in there already confident, having done no work, people are going to be like, you're a fucking mark.
Right.
You're going to collapse.
Yeah.
So then that's for me. And also maybe somebody starting out. But my advice for somebody starting out, do stand up, just do it. Just do it. Do sketch, do stand up, get online, shoot sketches. Like if you're trying to be funny, do as many things as often as possible that you think are funny for people to laugh at. Right. All the success stories I know in this town are for the people who worked the hardest nonstop. Except Ashton Kutcher.
I knew that was coming.
Who also, by the way, works super hard at like his businesses and shit. He's just so damn handsome and kind of casually funny that it gave him a damn career. But like, you gotta grind, you gotta keep going, you gotta keep reinventing yourself. And I don't mean like dyeing your hair, like coming up with a fake accent, but like trying new stuff, because if you stay in one lane, people will think of you as one thing and you'll have to be that. And maybe that's great. Maybe that's like fine. Maybe that's fine. But then you got to just be cool with doing one thing for the rest of your life. I don't know. It's such a different, and by the way, like, it sounds crazy, but like I got into this almost about 20 years ago. And because of technology, everything's different. Yeah. Like when I started, everything was pretty much the same from like the 60s. Right. You do live theater, you meet friends, you take acting classes. Then like YouTube came out and it's like, oh, you don't even need to go anywhere. You can be what's homeboy, super tall. Well, now he's old, but he was young and he was doing like guitar songs in his attic. Super funny stand-up comedian. Are
you talking Bo Burnham?
Bo Burnham. Yeah. Like now you got a Bo Burnham who's just like, oh, I did my 10,000 hours in my attic. Right. And then like I went live and I had the confidence and it was real because he had seen online these people react to how good he was. And now dude's, I mean, I think he's a genius. But like that's a whole different thing than anybody before him. You know, it's almost like vaudeville at home with an audience of the entire planet if you want. But yeah, you just gotta do stuff and keep making stuff. And if, by the way, if you don't, that's the first sign that you're not gonna cut it. Right. Right. Yeah. If you're the guy who likes to party, that's fine. But if you go to a party and you keep having to say like, I'm working on a screenplay and you ain't got a screenplay, you're the sucker. Right. Right. You know, like you don't want to meet a director and like hit it off with him and become like homies, business wise, not like best friends, but like, oh, you're cool. Like, cause you want to work with your friends out here. And if you meet like some director and you have like a fucking idea for a script, you just haven't sat down to write yet, that sucks. But if you're like, yo, I got a script, cool, send it to me. Great. He might not read it, but he read it. And like, he might say it's not right for me, but it's right for this other guy. Or he might go, this is good. Do you have an agent? And you go, no, here it is. Or like, hey, do you have an agent? Yes. Well, I gave it to my agent and he wants to give it to this new director who just had a thing at Sundance. Like, you just always got to be the person working so that when you go out there and you meet people and you have those opportunities, it's not like dumb luck and like, you know, it's real, it's tangible. Yeah. It's like opportunity without preparation is like nothing. You know? Exactly. Yeah. And like if you're on TikTok and all that shit, like that's fucking sick. I'm imagining that it's super competitive. but like, again, like if you can start some trend, great, but you better be ready to start 5 trends, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be just the guy who did the one thing. You want to be like, after that, he'd like, look at Kanye, dude. Like, this dude he'd made beats, then he rapped, then he started making shoes. Now this dude's flying down at the Mercedes Center. Like, dude just is like, I do this now and I do it well. And now I pivot and I do this and I do it well. You know, just be ready to fucking keep creating.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. I couldn't say anything better than that.
Or just get into Bitcoin. That's it.
Yeah, I know.
Until all that stuff, or just like hit Bitcoin.
Yeah. Your wife and your kids good? Enjoying the move?
Yeah, everybody's good. She's a fellow Badger. So that's cool. Mm-hmm. We had a beautiful move. I'm not going to lie. It's been hell. I don't know if you're related to contractors, but I think across my back in like a Cape Fear tattoo kind of way, I'm going to get the words, "Don't trust contractors," like in a cross. Like, that's holy shit balls.
That'll look really good in the Ozarks, you know.
These dudes are up to something.
Yeah, it took a while, huh?
Operating in the shadows. We don't know what that's going to cost. And COVID, you never know when you're getting the materials.
Yeah, right. I feel like there's a lot of relying on that, you know. Yeah. Well, this could just take a year maybe, and we'll just roll the dice.
Dude, I would love, if I was one of these billionaires going to space, I'd put a pin in going to space, and I would take my $100 billion and I would just create like a big box type contractor like thing.
Yeah.
You know, like, because it used to be like hardware stores, your local hardware store. Then Home Depot came out, right? And it was like, fuck, hardware stores gone. I would be that for contractors. I would spend $100 billion, even if I had $100 billion and $1, I would spend $100 billion on starting that up, getting all the shit in line, having contractors that were accountable, and I would put every contractor out of work. Come at me on Twitter, and you're gonna come at me because you know I'm right, and you're scared, and I'm putting the idea out there in the universe, and you're scared, and you should be.
Yeah. You are speaking like a man who has a bunch of rap stuff in his background. Dude, because he hasn't had time to undo it.
My God.
Because he's been dealing with contractors. Good luck with that. That I don't envy that at all. I've dealt with it a little bit on my end.
I want $100 billion and I'm going to work. I would devote my entire life to it.
When the movie totally crushes at the box office, you can invest your money that way, though. That's the nice thing here.
Yeah, I think it'll be 100 billion. It'll be something like that. It'll be in that wheelhouse. There'll be a comma attached to what I make.
No that I have no doubt. Yeah.
But and no box office. Definitely going to be like a couch at home situation. Your kid sat on the Apple TV remote and it just started somehow.
And it's like, sweet, there's a view, you know?
Yeah.
Take them the way you can get them. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me on. I love watching your stuff. It was cool to meet you because I did not know about you before we met. And then,
oh, really?
Yeah, and
I mean, I when I say, oh, really, like, I'm sure you hadn't, because, you know.
But no, I mean, like, what was funny is that woman was like, this woman who works for like alumni introduced us, and she was like, "You think you're famous to me?" And she's like, "My daughter wants a picture with this guy instead of you." And I was like, "Hey, what's up, man? Who the fuck are you?"
What are you doing? Why are you taking my picture away?
Yeah. How about I just don't meet with this guy? But then obviously you're a rad guy, and watching your stuff, it's always fun when you meet somebody who you like and then you watch their stuff and you go, thank God it's super funny. Thank God they're churning it out. Because when you meet somebody and you like them and they're like, oh, and check out my shit, and you're like, don't know what to say.
Cool.
And I'm not a guy who just throws hearts liberally on posts. I don't do it. I do it when I mean it. And I've been dropping you some hearts because I heard it.
Oh, thanks, bro. I really appreciate that.
Stoked to be on this. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I've been a fan for so many years, so it's really an honor to have you on. So thanks for doing it. Keep her moving. When you get out to the Midwest, come on up. Hopefully I'll have a lake house then. And I'm going to have to squat on somebody's lake house. I don't quite have got lake house money yet, but I'm working toward it.
That's fine. I'll reach out to my Fib brothers and see if we can work those connects.
I went this whole time. I didn't bring up Fib at all. I thought it would be impolite of me. And
I don't think I knew about Fib until I got to Madison.
Oh, really? Was it some Wisconsin guy?
Someone's like, oh, you're a Fib. And I'm like, maybe. What is that? Fucking Illinois bastard. I was like, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, that'd be me.
But then, of course, I'm like, yeah, from outside Chicago. What's up? And they're like, I think we're going to pour a beer on his head. But yeah, no, I'm proud to be one of your Fib guests here, and would love to try that kneeboard out on one of the many lakes of Wisconsin. Yeah,
well, you let me know when you're back home. I have access to a boat. I have access to a kneeboard, so let's make it happen. All right. This. I got knee braces too.
My body glove, full wetsuit
with the zipper on the back. Where you jump when you pull it up.
That's right.
It's going to be fun. I can't wait, man.
All right, man. Thanks so much. Later.
Take care. And that's it for this week's episode of the Cripescast. Special thanks to Anders for coming on the show. Make sure you follow him on Instagram. That's at DERS808. At DERS808. I just said it twice like an infomercial. Look at me. I'm getting there. And of course, if you want to follow the Cripescast, we post videos from this and pictures and the whole nine. So you can follow us at Cripescast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you all for listening. Until next week, keep her moving and watch out for deer. Okie dokes. Bye-bye.
So roll out the barrel and get the band brewing. Life's got you down. Just keep her moving. It's on Wisconsin. The Badgers say it's the old Wisconsin Jubilee.
Sometimes when you're ice fishing, you put your foot in the walleye hole and go ass over tea kettle and you think you're done. No, you gotta keep her moving.